Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara. We talk about TV shows here. The year is 2021 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 3, episode 7. It's called Exogenesis. So full spoilers for the episode, as always. And this is a Bridge Boy episode. In fact, forgive me, Lieutenant Bridge Boy.
Bridge Boy.
Why say it like that? Stop it, it's weird, creepy.
That's how I imagine them.
Okay.
That's definitely how Ivanova calls him.
Sure. Okay.
Calls him over.
Well, we have a discussion to be had with Bridge Boy and Ivanova. This is a delightful subplot. This is like one of the best subplots this show's ever had. Which is at the start of the episode. We'll start with this plot, I guess, because we're talking about it. At the start of the episode, we cut to the restaurant bar area, and they're cheering because Bridge Boy's gotten a promotion. He's now a full lieutenant, and they're like, "Oh yeah, everyone!" And there's a little bit of a convo going on with our main characters about why. Oh, did we not invite Cole? And Ivanova's like, "He's not one of us. He's not got a uniform. He's not got the wings or anything. He shouldn't be here." And Garibaldi and like Franklin are like, "It's a bit a strong reaction." And Sheridan like, "Oh yeah, she's probably right. It's probably best to keep him on, just quiet, keep him out of sight." But
yeah, he doesn't need to be seen with them all the time. Like people might start to think that he is.
It makes sense.
I don't know. Important to them.
I'm mentioning this because the through line, of course, of is there a potential romance there also is there in the episode. But I did laugh later on when Franklin said you're so far from her type, because obviously her type, as we know it right now, is Talia, which is definitely different from Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Very different.
I can see her and Bridge Boy working out, just because Ivanova's so strong and Bridge Boy is so weak.
Do you think he's into that?
I can see them both being into that. Yeah.
Of course he's into that. What am I saying? The look of fear yet excitement on his face later in this episode was all we needed to see.
Right.
So basically the conversation comes up is that now that he's a lieutenant, Sheridan says to Ivanova, because Sheridan's done a lot of this episode, he kind of just disappears after he gives her this task until we see him at the end, and he says to her that, now with him being a full lieutenant, he's more privy to information, he's going to be around a lot more, he's going to, it may be harder to keep our secret team a secret from him. So maybe you should put out some feelers and see if he's someone that might be an ally or someone that we might have to make a point of hiding from. Like, just see what his stance is on stuff. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay. And she goes over to him on the deck and says, "Hey, we've gotten to know each other, and you're, a lieutenant now. Maybe we should meet and talk, off duty." And immediately I'm thinking, he's going to think this is a proposition. He's going to think this is sexy times. And it wasn't quite going there quite yet, because he's like, "Oh, well, we'll talk over breakfast tomorrow." And she's like, "No, that'll be too noisy, and there's too many people. Let's just be private."
She goes like full Franklin on him. Yeah. Why don't you come to my room?
Come to my quarters, and we can talk. I'll give you some of my real coffee, which is, a bit of a naughty thing. People are not supposed to have real coffee. And
plus inviting someone in for coffee. Wink, wink.
So when she says this, though, when she says, "Why don't you come to my place?" the look in his face, the fear, and yet I may be into this. Like, I'm scared of her, but I'm aroused. I'm scared of her, but I'm kind of aroused.
Plus, there's a little bit of a confusion. Like, I don't want to get this wrong.
Yes. No, to be fair, yeah, the next time we see him and he's going to buy flowers and it's like, "Oh God, what are you doing? This is going to be so sad." But he even says, "I don't know if this is a date or not, so I'm confused, I don't know what to do." And the guy just wants to make a sale. So he's like, Rosie's will never go wrong. I'm like, no, if it's not a date, Rosie's is going to look a bit funny.
Yeah.
Showing up with a dozen red roses when it's purely a platonic kind of a business discussion.
Yeah. Well, flowers of any kind, really. I mean, roses are particularly romantic, but like, yes, flowers of any kind would be like an inappropriate response to a business thing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I'm sure there's some more neutral that's just sort of like a nice gesture. Like you just give that to anyone to put in their house, rather than something that's beautiful and
Sunflowers, maybe?
Maybe you could bring her like a bag of coffee beans or something. I don't know. She already has coffee. But
I brought you some seeds to plant your own flowers.
Anyway, Bridge Boy comes over and he basically gauges her reaction to the roses, like on the spot. And when she goes, "Roses? Why you got roses there?" He immediately panics and says, "Oh, I found them. They're just sitting out there.
Someone left them here."
Someone left them here. Which, obviously, it's kind of funny, and the scene goes on, and the actual serious part of the scene is that, he actually would turn them in if, because she says, "Hey, would you turn someone in if they were kind of bending the rules a bit," kind of thing. And he says, "Well, like, we take our orders, the chain of command's important, and even if I personally think that what's better for people on Earth is maybe not what we've been told to do, I still, the chain of command is a part of this process, and I would have to, report that." And obviously it's not what we want to hear. We want to hear that he's maybe open to the idea of being a bit more free-willed, but that's the important part. That's the serious part of the scene, but we don't want to talk about that.
And like the American military has that. Like,
sure,
yeah, you're supposed to always follow orders, but if you do think the orders are unjust, you are allowed to like take a stand and say no. Yeah.
But does EarthGov have this in 2260? Yeah. That's the question. But yes, so that's that, right? But there's a payoff to all this. There is a funny payoff to this sequence, which is later on, because Cole kind of reveals to Franklin that he's kind of got a crush on Ivanova. Franklin,
it's my worst fear.
Franklin brings this up when they're all together later on in the episode, and kind of, he's kind of smug about it and chuckles and is like, he may be into you. And she goes, "That's who left them." And I just like, okay, this is funny. This is actually pretty funny. And my favorite part of this ending scene, which is her just going to give him the roses back and just saying, "You can keep them." And he's like, "Oh, that's very nice. Maybe there's hope for us yet."
Thank you.
But my favorite part of this is the military drums and the camera swooping around her as she's walking. Like, she's walking with purpose, and the camera's sort of doing this motion to like give it like this sense of like purpose and direction, and the military drums are going. It's like this. It's the sort of like the way you play a scene when someone's like in like a war movie and they're walking to the war room to like say, "This is what we're going to do." Like, I've got the plans. I've got the plan of attack.
Yes, and she has unknowingly sent the opposite message that she wanted to.
Well, I mean, it has to be a mixed message, though, right? I mean, unless he just thinks that this is Ivanova's like flirting, is to say, "You can keep them," and just walk away quickly as possible.
I think so. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, that Ivanova's a feisty one.
Here's a gift of roses. What a romantic gesture. He's very happy to have them.
It's like one minor step away of like shoving them in his face, going, "Here's some roses for you," and like sort of shoving them into his chest, and I'm being like, "Oh, look at them."
Yes. Like, I don't know how I feel about this yet. My immediate gut reaction is, "Oh no, they're gonna be a thing."
I mean, it might never actually be a couple, though. It might just play with.
It might not. I mean, look at Sheridan and Delenn, for Christ's sake.
But that's sweet and true, and I feel that, though.
I know. I feel the absence of their relationship. Why do they not have babies yet?
This is don't. I can't respond to that with any genuine critique because it's baseless. Okay? Baseless.
I want them to be a thing. They've been setting it up for a whole season, and now it's like it's not a thing anymore.
I think there were some nice hints. It's developing along. We're going to have more moments with them. I don't think it was
So
set.
now they're just friends? Do they still have dinner together with Lanier?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure that I don't know if they're having dinner in Barry style, because Sheridan was not particularly fond of those eating rituals.
He did fall asleep. He was doing it because there was genuine interest.
He was making the effort because of genuine interest, yes. Right. He wasn't falling asleep because there was genuine interest.
No.
The falling asleep was the unfortunate acceptance that some things are not compatible.
I hope that's not a metaphor for the relationship.
I doubt it will be. Delenne's fine. She'll eat some burgers or something. She'll get into his groove. She'll be fine. Sorry, vegan burgers. She'll eat some vegan burgers.
Thank you. Some black meat burgers.
Some of that Beyond meat.
Num num.
So, yeah. So that's the payoff to it. It's a fun subplot. It's delightful. I was cackling when Bridge Boy was getting a bit more time, and they're actually kind of like paying attention to him just a little bit more. It's like,
I had that moment of, oh, he was a lieutenant junior grade? I didn't know that.
Hey.
And now he's a lieutenant.
So that's cool. It's all nice. The main plot, though, which is obviously weird that we started with that, but obviously Bridge Boy is something of a myth at this point. It
sort of starts and ends with it, so.
Yeah, but Bridge Boys is something of a running joke or a myth at this point in this show, this review series, so, makes sense we wanted to start there. The main plot is got a bit of a Body Snatchers vibe early on, and then kind of turns into almost kind of like one of the species from Star Trek by the end. Is it the Trill I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
it's
Trill.
Very Trill.
By the end. It's got its own spin on it, though. I wasn't feeling like it was too close or anything, but it goes down this path of there's these almost like face-hugger-esque parasites get into people's backs and seemingly taking them over, and it's very sinister looking at first. At least one person.
Well, the first one we meet is in so much pain.
Yes.
And we're watching like these two people are like, just take it. It's okay. Just relax and it'll be fine. And then the next scene, he's dead. So that was pretty sinister.
It's meant to be menacing and sort of give us the vibe that it is like malicious and all the rest of it. And it does all the tropes of making them look like TV episode villains, where like the man and the woman who are kind of in charge of it are always looking very sinister and whatever. But what this actually kind of becomes is that we introduced to like a shopkeep, like a little merchant who's in the
with a fantastic voice.
Yeah, I've seen this guy before. I've heard this guy's voice before. He's done stuff. He
has to be a narrator for something.
I've definitely seen him in stuff before. Duncan Aubrey Morris is the actor's name. I'm just clicking on his name to see if he's in Clockwork Orange. He's in The Wicker Man. He's in Life Force. So he's in some big movies.
I don't know Life Force, but the first two I've seen.
Life Force starring Jean-Luc Picard. You've not seen Life Force?
I've not seen it.
It's Jean-Luc Picard and a naked woman. That's how I described that movie.
It's intriguing.
Yeah,
I mean, The Wicker Man's got like a naked woman also.
That's true.
Who sings while presenting herself.
The naked woman in Life Force is naked the whole movie, though, so it's very memorable.
No, The Wicker Man one was pretty memorable.
So this actor, who does have a great voice, he passed away in 2015 at the age of 89. So he had a pretty decent run. But yeah, so he's very good. He's very good. Now he does come across his character. That is, he does come across as a bit of a plant to make his like, okay, here's a character that Cole cares about who's just been introduced, so we're going to care when something bad happens to him. But
right, I immediately thought he was going to get the zucchini body snatched.
Yeah,
but
only so much in terms of caring, because it is just a sort of shoehorned in character. But it goes in a different kind of path with it, which I think made it more interesting by the end. So Cole, when his friend goes missing, when one of his like secret rangers like stops showing up for meetings, he becomes
Sam?
Yeah. Which, by the way, he mentions that there's a package coming for him in about a week. Like the guy he talks to first.
Yeah, I was expecting that to show up. I guess that's going to be here next week.
Well, I had the thought. I'm like, okay, that could just be throwaway line, but if he gets a package next episode, I'm going to be impressed. I'm going to be impressed.
Or at least the next time we see him, he'll have some new trinket.
Yes, maybe he's got like a new toy or something that. It's like, oh, that's what he got. That's what came in the.
A new extra interesting staff thing.
Yes, I mean his
springy staff.
His springy staff's doing pretty well though. I don't know if he needs a new one. I think he's happy enough.
Excuse me.
So he obviously goes to investigate. He goes to Garibaldi saying, "Hey, my friend's disappeared," and Garibaldi's like, "There's no foul plays happened. He's just like, this is the part of the station where people are all kind of weird. That's why they're in the brown sector, right? And you know, he has a throw, and I genuinely thought this was a funny transition, where he says, "Look, if people are acting weird down here, maybe they need some medical attention, but that's not my my right to say." And he goes, "Can I quote you on that?" And he's like, "Sure." And he walks away, and it cuts to him talking to Frank saying, "Yeah, Garibaldi said I should come get you to investigate this thing because we need some medical." And like, this is actually pretty funny. Like, this episode's basically designed to make you like Cole a bit more, and I think it succeeds a little bit in doing that. It also gives Franklin and Cole a bit of buddy cop kind of moments and chemistry to give them some... Because right now he is kind of this new guy who doesn't really have much of a relationship with anyone. So this gave him and Franklin a bit of bonding and a bit of time to get to it. And because that great moment where Franklin's like, well, we've been kidnapped now, but at least Garibaldi knows where we are. And Cole just kind of looks at him and like, yeah, about that. So that moment plays well enough, and it's, they're both likable in the moment. So yeah, I think that element. I mean, I'm saying mostly things that I think work about this episode, and I do think there's some nice ideas where we're going with the plot in a minute, but I will say it is a bit of a weaker main plot compared to a lot of the ones we've had recently.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a standalone, with the exception of like the character development that happens for Cole, but like for the most part, it doesn't really connect to the shadows or any of the main plot that's happening. But I do like where it goes. Like, I think it's interesting enough.
I do like where it goes. When I talk about it being a weaker plot, a weaker A plot, typically compared to a lot of the other episodes from at least recently, it's more just because as the first half of it's playing out, where we do think it's a menacing body snatcher style premise, like, it's not necessarily doing anything that interesting with it. Like, every time it cuts to the villains doing evil stuff, or it cuts to Franklin, like, getting the parasite, or a bit of the parasite off the spine of the dead guy, like, all of that stuff's just kind of like, whatever. Like, we're just like, when's this getting to the kind of... And it does get interesting. It gets interesting when it turns out that everyone who's been taken over is someone who was kind of basically floundering and not really doing much with their life, and we're kind of maybe wanting a bit like a higher purpose. And these beings... Which is
something that Cole brings up. He's like, why these guys? Like, why not us? Why are they going for the people who like have no power or status?
Because they're debating if like are they doing this to eventually take over the station without anyone realizing, but then they say, yeah, but everyone they've taken over is like a drifter who's like in the lower decks of the station.
A lurker.
Yeah. And it turns out that these beings, they're not just parasites, they're actually like a race of beings that have lived for eons, and they've lived because they've kept transferring from host to host. And the idea is that they are chronicling history, that no matter what part of time we get to, whenever it may be, they'll have memories of every possible era. Which is why I think this might somehow actually end up helping at some point with the war.
Well, yeah, they're basically an encyclopedia of the universe.
Because, like, if this comes up, and Franklin really should mention this to Sheridan and co., it's like, well, maybe they know stuff about the shadows. Maybe they know stuff about the first ones. Like, by the sounds of it, they should. So
maybe Cole should say something too. Yeah.
Maybe that will come back up, because I like that Franklin, once it's proven to them, he says, okay, like, I get to medically check out everyone, and before you take any more volunteers, I get to supervise all of this. But he is convinced. He understands that this is a choice that's being made, and that this is like, and it's proven, unfortunately, by the Cole's friend Duncan, who lets the parasite be taken out of him, and he goes back to being in pain and being weak and being sick. And he says that, no, everything they were saying is true. That wasn't just them speaking through me. Like, this is... you feel like you're special and you have a purpose, and you're still in there. You're still part of the system when they take over.
Yeah, it is very much like what we understand the Trill is in Star Trek, where once you have this conjoined host and symbiotic relationship, then you have all of their memories too and all of their knowledge. So you feel... you don't just feel like you have purpose, but like you have history, and so that's a really powerful thing to go through, the experience. And when Duncan is describing the loss of it too, it does feel like a great loss.
Yeah, and in fact, some of the
A great
speeches,
sacrifice.
some of the speeches they give, these beings that are in these bodies, Joe, it was making me think of more than anything bizarrely in the scene itself. It was making me think of Blade Runner. It was Rutger Hauer's speech at the end of Blade Runner. There was
Tears in the rain.
well, not so much that part, but more the we've seen worlds and stuff beyond the edge of the galaxies and the edge of the known universe that you would never would be able to imagine. I was like, oh, this is very, I've seen, sea beams and ships on the shoulder of Orion. It was really making me think of that Blade Runner speech, which is not a problem. This is the best part of that movie. But
yeah, and that speech was also about like the loss of memory, and if you don't have memory, then like what are you anymore?
And given that we are dealing in this show with a lot of concepts of these ancient races that are still around, and there was wars eons ago. I think this concept of a troll-like species that do have knowledge of that time makes a lot of sense in the context of the overall story. Assuming they use it in some way. If they don't, it's not a big deal, but I expect it should be used at some point.
Yeah, it's too bad Cole, unfortunately, doesn't have that link to them anymore with Duncan.
Yeah, although Duncan does have a...
Duncan said, hey, you're my friend, and I like you, so they could have, kept in contact.
Yeah, Duncan, he can't have the parasite go back in. It would kill him to go back in, they say.
Or at least, his brain wouldn't be able to handle it, and he would be, brain dead or something.
Yeah. So he has to stay human now and just sort of live whatever's left of his life, but he does sort of have, an upbeat attitude.
He's inspired.
Yeah, because he says, I can't go back to doing what I was doing. Now I'm going to go and seek an adventure, just one special thing before I die. Now that I remember, having that special feeling. So it gives him a sense of purpose, and it's kind of a happier goodbye for him. Which, honestly, I think him giving up this, happiness once they claimed that's what it was, and then he explains that he did feel better, and he felt like he had a purpose, and he was special. It actually made the character work for me in a way that he didn't up until that point. Before that, he was just, he's a nice enough old man, but he's the character they bring in to make a sympathetic moment happen for our main character. But this, having to remove it to prove that this was real, and then that being taken away from him, so now he doesn't have it anymore, actually made me feel sad for him, and it actually made me care about the character himself. And I thought that was impressive.
Yeah,
so
it was a really big sacrifice for him. But he did it for the other trill-like species.
Yeah,
whatever they're called.
Really interesting stuff. And I think it's also a nice little counterpoint to, how Talia had a secret version of herself that was inside her that took over when they triggered it. I think this is a really interesting one that was opted into, where the people are making the choice to accept this extra being, so I think it's interesting just the parallels a little bit with that.
The second identity inside of them.
And the idea being that you can coexist, so even the entire themes of this show is can we coexist? Can all these different groups and species and races all coexist? The idea of two personalities coexisting in one body is kind of an interesting microcosm of that. That if you make the choice to have a peaceful coexistence, then you can.
Yeah.
And thrive even. So
be happier.
So yeah, there's some stuff in. I think what hurts it a little bit, because I like that it focuses on a couple of characters like Franklin and Cole, Cole especially, who needs the development of it more than everyone else.
Yeah, we haven't had too much of him. There was the first episode, the episode he had with Ivanova, and now this one, basically.
So you've got their buddy cop stuff, effectively. You've got the themes and this race and how it possibly connects to the ideas of these ancient beings. All that stuff is really solid, and some of the parallels that I've pointed out. What probably hurts it is just some of the more generic TV tropey elements of the first half, and I mean, it's hard not to. I know you hate when I bring up the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but there's an episode of that with a bad body snatcher style plot that is one of the worst episodes of the whole show, and making me think of that episode does not set you off in the right foot. I'm not I'm almost expecting it to suck immediately.
Which is a shame, because I really enjoyed the Body Snatcher films.
And I enjoy 2 of the Body Snatcher films.
Oh, I haven't seen The Invasion. Is that the one you're thinking of?
No.
Oh, the Nicole Kidman one?
No, that one sucked.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, is that when you said two of them?
Yeah, the original and the 78
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Well, you said that so specifically. I'm like, oh, you must hate the invasion one then.
Oh yeah, I thought you were asking if I liked that one, if that was one of the two.
No, I was thinking, well, yeah, clearly you like those two because those were both great films. So
I'm not
I
sure.
just remembered that there was also the invasion one, which I guess
I'm not sure.
counts as the.
I'm not sure if you misspoke or I misheard, but all I can hear in my head right now is Samuel L. Jackson saying, "English, mother effer, do you speak it?" So to whichever one of us made the mistake there, see Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction, Path of the Righteous, all that jazz. So
What? Say what? One more time.
it's hard to quote that scene without dropping F-bombs.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of F-bombs in that
He's
scene.
so good at it.
He's very good. Although I can't watch that scene without craving a burger. It's so good. See when he bites into that burger and he's talking about the tasty burger. I'm like, oh man, I want a burger now.
Big Kahuna.
Big Kahuna. No Big Kahuna's here, unfortunately, but
I think it's made up for the film. I think.
yeah.
I've never seen the Big Kahuna.
It's probably made up, yeah. So, but no, I think this is kind of a weaker episode in terms of it not being like it's super exciting, but I do think it does some good, nice little character things. The subplot's a lot of fun, and
I like this episode.
yeah. So it's not going to be one that's like up there with the heavy hitters that are like the starts of wars or the end of wars, which are notable standouts from recent times, but it's got some interesting. This is a perfect little standalone episode that advances some character stuff to me, and raises some interesting ideas from a science fiction point of view. So it just starts a little rocky with the body snatcher stuff being a little off.
Yeah, you're right. It does come off as like, oh, Monster of the Week episode that we're just gonna forget about, but it doesn't end up that way.
And that's may have been brought up before, but Franklin has like medical override for every like lock on the station. Apparently,
Makes sense. Yeah.
It does make some sense. But I did get a chuckle out of him saying, "Oh, I can open the door so we can look and see if anyone's in trouble." And Cole just it's like the door's not even finished opening by the time Cole just darts in.
Yeah, I think. Well, he says I'm allowed to like open it, but I'm not allowed to enter or something. And Cole's like, I don't have to follow that rule, so he just runs in.
Well, I'm sure if he sees someone lying needing medical attention, he's allowed to go in.
Yeah, why else would he be able to open the doors?
Exactly.
Because in height.
Thank you. That's pretty much the episode. I'm just trying to think if there was any little other snippets, but there's no Jakar, which makes sense because he's locked up for 60 days.
Right.
No Delenn, no Lanier.
Barely any Sheridan.
Yeah, which is he gets a lot of line shares, a lot of episodes, so it's fine for him to take a back seat once in a while.
Yeah, I'm surprised they even like asked him to show up that week.
But he does pop up at the end just briefly for Ivanova to like give him the little like nah. I don't think we can just tell him about our secret club.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. We talked about the scene, but like him basically falling into the category of like, no, I'm still by the book. I'm still very much Earth. He's not Earth first because he has a passion for like
he still comes across as like good
like
and noble.
fascism.
Yeah,
it's still very much like, no, I've been told that the chain of command works and to follow orders, and I will always follow orders because people above me know what they're doing.
He doesn't.
Like, I would not question it.
He doesn't come across like that some of the Night Watch do, where like they're part of the Gestapo, right? He comes across as, no, this is just the rules, and I follow the rules, and I am good. But that does mean that there's hope yet. Like, if things come out more on the table, where like maybe it's more overt that the Earth government can't be trusted, like, and he sees that, like, he might. Like, maybe that'll be a big plot beat, is that because we know where he stands now, it'll mean something when he makes a choice later to, like, accept their way of doing things. That's a potential payoff to this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you agree. So there we go. That's Babylon 5. Only 30 minutes. This is a quick one. But it felt like a quick discussion episode when I was watching it. I got to the end and went, yeah, this is probably a quicker one.
Yeah, it's alright.
Yeah, unless we can really stretch out Bridge Boy and Ivanov as like her with the serious, no emotion eyes, and then him with the, is she trying to seduce me? Is that what's happening right now?
I think we're past that scene.
I don't know. The look of fear in his eyes was cracking me up. All right, fine.
Yeah, he was good.
So here we go. That is Exogenesis. We'll be back next week, of course, with your next episode. Of course, let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at mail_fudge for channel updates. Of course, Tara will tell you all about Patreon.
That's right. If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MalafuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of other shows we do. And if you donate $5 per month, you'll get access to these reviews 1 week early. And some other shows you get a week early. And some shows you get a day early. So head on over and check that out if that interests you. Thank you.
You really put some dramatic flair into the "that's right." I was in awe of the "that's right."
I've been accused of following a script. I'm trying to change things up a bit.
You still said the same thing.
I like starting with the "that's right."
Okay.
Like it's a sales pitch, you know. That's right. I'd buy that for $1.
That is our Babylon 5 discussion. Thank you for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.